we got a sense of just how unbelievable last week in eastern North America when a heat wave unlike any other that had ever crossed this continent in the spring took place. And every meteorologist I know was just watching, jaw agape at this. No idea that, I mean, we had played at Halifax and St. John. Both had days when their low temperature for the day was higher than the previous record high temperature for that day. Statistically, that just shouldn't even be possible to happen. We have 100+ years of records. You can't break records like that, except that we are on a different planet than those old records were set on. And we have just begun that process. So far, human beings have raised the temperature of the planet about 1 degree. But they tell us, the same people who told us that would happen and who told us what it would bring, tell us that unless we get our act together with great speed, and by getting our act together, I mean getting off coal and gas and oil far faster than any government currently plans to, that 1 degree will be 4 or 5 degrees before the century is out, and most of that change will be locked in soon, and there is no possible reason to think that we can cope with change on that scale. A team at Stanford and the University of Washington looked at just one problem. What happens to grain yields, not with drought and flood, but simply with that increase in heat? Because, of course, our grain crops evolved in the Holocene too, and what they found was that from this point on, every degree increase in temperature should cause grain yields to fall about 10%. You guys know enough about the world to be able to, in your heads, do that experiment. What happens to war and peace, to social justice, to development, to women's rights, to all the things that we care a great deal about on this planet if suddenly there are 20 or 30% less calories on Earth than there are now? Nothing good happens. It's not, we cannot let that happen. This is the biggest thing that human beings have ever done. It is the largest challenge we have ever faced. And, you know, so far, we're not doing a very good job of meeting it. But we're going to try. We're going to try as hard as we can. And Naomi and Avi and so many others have been among the real leaders in this fight. Let me talk just for a moment about 350.org. Naomi told you where the name came from. In 2008, Jim Hansen, our greatest climatologist, published a paper saying we now know enough about carbon. Anything more than 350 parts per million is, quote, not compatible with the planet on which civilization developed and to which life on Earth is adapted. That's scientific language, but it's not very far from, in its tone and certainly in its meaning, from the indigenous prophecies that people have been telling us about for a very long time. What he was saying was the planet is out of balance, okay? Because wherever we are today, Vancouver or Vienna or Vietnam, the atmosphere is 393 parts per million CO2 and growing about 2 parts per million per year. We're way out of control. So to read that paper was a kick in the teeth. It meant we weren't going to stop global warming. The best we were going to do was keep it from getting worse than it has to. But reading it did give us one clue that maybe we had a kind of wedge now that we needed to do this sort of global organizing. Global organizing is hard because people around the world insist on speaking their own language, which makes it difficult, okay? And so the good news is Arabic numerals cross linguistic boundaries. So 350 means the same thing, you know, in British Columbia and British Guiana and wherever else you are, okay? And we figured we could go to work with that. That was about what we had to work with. We had no money, and we had myself and 7 21-year-olds at Middlebury College, where I teach. 7 is, as I have said before, a fine number for this sort of thing because there are, in fact, 7 continents. So each one of them took one. And the one that took the Antarctic also took the internet because it's sort of its own continent, you know. And off we went to work. And our work was finding other people like ourselves all over the place. And in many parts of the world, there's not like a category called environmentalist, but there's always somebody who's worried about, peace or hunger or all that, and who understood that understood that you couldn't do these things on a degrading world. No one is working on anything like development right now in Thailand. They're just trying to get people back onto dry hut someplace. We didn't know how well it would work. We told everybody we were going to do a first big day of action in October of 2009, and everybody should try and do something wherever they were. We'd done these training camps for young people in Turkey, for Central Asia, and in the Caribbean, and South Africa, brought a couple of kids from every country in Africa. We didn't really know, what would happen. We got the first sense it might work 2 days early, and this will explain why this odd photograph from Addis Ababa has been up here on the wall for a long time, okay? And you can put it up all over the place now if you want. We got a phone call from our organizer in Addis Ababa, a volunteer who was 17 years old named Lily. And she said, the government took away our permit for Saturday, so we can't do our demonstration then. We're going to do it today before they can stop us, and we're really sorry. We don't want to jump the gun. We were so looking forward to doing it with everybody else. We don't want to spoil it for everybody. And we have 15,000 people out in the street right now in Addis Ababa. So I was like, Lily, don't worry about the date. It's okay. And after that, for the next, 72 hours, the pictures just rolled in. You can flip through them, a few of them here if you want. Oddly, the next one, and one of these smallest, but it came from American soldiers in Afghanistan, made a 350 with sandbags, said we're parking our Humvee for the weekend and walking, okay? Keep going through. I'm just going to, if you just keep flipping here through some of these, and the only thing I really want you to see as you look at some of these is that one thing that became very clear as these 5,100 of us, keep going there. Some of them we couldn't figure out where they were coming from. But stop on that one for a minute. One of the things we figured out was that this old saw I've heard 1,000 times, that environmentalism is something for rich white people who've taken care of their other problems, just turns out not to be true. Most of the people we were working with around the world were poor or black or brown or Asian or young, because that's what most of the world is made up of, And oddly, they were exactly as concerned about the future as anybody else. And so pictures are coming in like this one from, these guys were in dugout canoes someplace above Kinshasa in the region that Conrad, in his Eurocentric way, defined as sort of the heart of darkness on our planet. They were poor. They did not have a digital camera. They took a picture and tried to develop it in someone's home darkroom. It didn't come out very well, so they wrote in what the banner had said. But they got it to us, and I took it as a very good sign that that sort of thing was going on, all the world. We can flip through a couple more of these if you want. Just quickly through them, because they're just, as I say, there were 5,100 then. I could show them all day because they make me very happy to look at. You can stop there if you want. One of the things that was really beautiful was deep involvement of religious communities and spiritual communities of all kinds. So there's the head of Muslim South Africa, and next to him in the beads, the head of kind of indigenous traditions in South Africa, and behind them in the scarlet, Archbishop Tutu's successor is Anglican Archbishop of South Africa at the head of a huge multi-faith march across Cape Town. Go on a couple more here. In Pentecostal school, that's the biggest evangelical college in North America next. I'd been to Bethlehem to do some organizing. You can't, this picture's a little faint, but Bethlehem's obviously sort of hard to get to and things at the moment, but the Dead Sea is shrinking very rapidly as temperatures rise. Everybody wanted to do something. there are too many military checkpoints in the way, so the Jordanians said, we'll make the giant 3 on our beach. The Palestinians said, we'll do the 5 on our shore. The Israelis said, we'll take care of the 0. And it was a beautiful thing to see. You can go on a couple more. Keep going here. It was an autumn Saturday in America, so a football stadium thing. But just every place around the world, this, including, of course, right here in British Columbia. And there's one coming up here I just want you to see. Oh, that's it. We'll stop here. One of my favorite pictures came from Soweto, which, of course, was the heartland of resistance to apartheid, Black Township in South Africa. And they did 350 bungee jumps that day. But the best thing was they sent us a note saying we tied the bungee line between the cooling towers of a defunct coal-fired power plant. This is the highest and best use for coal-fired power plants going forward. And I think that's absolutely right. There really are a million of these pictures, and if you go to 350.org, you can look at them for a long time. I'm not going to show you any more because I want to just stop quickly here. The only way to deal with this problem is very clear. It's to get off coal and gas and oil. That is extremely hard to do. It will be the hardest thing that human beings have ever done. Fossil fuel is at the center of our economy, and it is the most profitable enterprise in which humans have ever engaged, and hence those who make that profit will defend it with enormous power and cleverness and guile and determination.